And my video title today is Practice All the Things. What are all the things that we practice? Okay, practice everything. So I practice lots of stuff. And sometimes I do it here on the table in front of you in the morning. Sometimes I do it by myself, alone at night. What do we practice? I practice throwing, first and foremost. And I don't care if you're a random thrower like Greg, or if you're just winging them down that thing. Doesn't matter. Practice your throws. I think there's magic in, you don't have to be a controlled shooter to be a good thrower, right? I talk about rhythm throwing all the time. I'm a big believer in, even if you don't set the dice well, or don't set them at all, if you don't have the perfect pendulum swing or whatever it is, you can still be a quote unquote good thrower because energy produces sevens in large part, controlling energy, right? So you can still grab them nice and light and toss them nice and light and have them not go all cattywampus down there at the end of the table. It's good to practice that for everybody. I think having careful, soft throws are always going to be good for avoiding sevens. Now, what I do, and I've shown you this before, is I leave the dice out on the table. And I've got a bunch of sets. I've got, I think, 35 or 40 sets of dice. Not everybody does, but they're cheap. You can go to Amazon and get those Bribelli dice for like $8 a set, $8 a stick or something like that. You don't have to have, you know, the Midwest Gaming $50, you know, set of dice. You can get regular ones to just get some basic practice in. And I'll show you here what I do with those. I'll do some throws today and I leave them on the table. I'll throw a set of dice and I'll leave them out. A set of dice and I'll leave them out. And I'll line them up on my table so I can see 2 or 3 hands at the same time and get a sense of what my strategies do against those hands. So I'll lay the hands out there and I'll say, okay, what would the horseman have done against these rolls? What would the come ladder have done against these rolls? What would the Butterberg have done against these rolls? How about a straight don't against these rolls? And I look at that, and again, you're gonna say, you're looking in hindsight, of course you can tune your strategy, but I think tuning your strategies against what you've just seen, and you say, wow, I missed that opportunity. I talk all the time about jumping into the field when I see 2 fields in a row, and I didn't do it here, and I should have done it there, and I would have caught 2 more. And it's a way for you to kind of identify A, trends, and B, like, man, that happens a lot with the dice. My strategy doesn't account for that situation. So I think rolling and letting them stay out there is important to see, and that's why I do it this way. Sometimes a part of what I do is to practice my actual throw. A lot of what I do is to look at my series of throws against my favorite strategies and get a sense of it. So I think that's an important thing to practice when I'm doing it. So I don't do it in the mornings usually on our show because primarily it takes too much room on the table, and I don't want to take up time and space with all that when we're trying to talk strategy. So I do that mostly off camera, but it's a thing I do. I also practice my payouts. 2 reasons, right? One is maybe someday I'll be a dealer, so I want to make sure my payouts are correct and I understand what I'm supposed to be paying. But as a player, practicing those payouts helps you understand what you're supposed to get paid. Okay, and as an example, if you're going to put a $12 6 out there, which pays $14, and you're going to half press it, you're going to press it up by $6. What change should you expect back? Out of your 14, you're putting 6 back in play. You're expecting the dealer to give you $8, and you got to know that. So as I'm doing this stuff, I practice that, so I'm used to seeing what's coming back to my rack, and I know what I can expect every time. That way you can catch a mistake. A lot of my locals, we talk about this all the time. My local dealers, my local casinos are a lot of break-in dealers because, again, we're a small market here, our $5 tables, a lot of break-ins, a lot of mistakes get made on the tables, and I always know what I'm supposed to get paid. And I practice looking at what's coming back and go, oh, that should have been $8. And I leave it on the table and I'll go, hey, I expected $8 here and I don't touch the money. Like, those are things you have to practice doing, like looking at what's coming back to you and seeing, okay, what am I expecting? What did I get? Excuse me, if you're a presser or a power presser, you have to know and be ready for what's your next move is going to be. You got to know what you're going to say next. And I think practicing what you say next is important. We're going to talk about power pressing here in a little bit. David at Casino Quest put out a really good video explaining power pressing across all the numbers that you should watch. If you're going to be a power presser, he's got a chart that goes with it, and really know those numbers. I think it's an important thing. I actually use my rack to help me get through some of that stuff. And I'll show you how I set my rack up to help me get through the press moves because it can be confusing. And I think your rack can be a thing that helps you out. I think about baseball a lot. Now, you know I love baseball. I coached baseball. My son played baseball. I played baseball. I love baseball on TV. One of the things I do with baseball is picture this. If you've played the game or know the game, everybody on the field has a job on every hit, right? The ball gets put in play, everybody's going somewhere, right? If it goes to the first baseman, the shortstop has a place to be on the field, right? They've all got coverage responsibilities on every single play. Craps to me is the same way. If I have an across bet, I'm thinking the whole time, if the five, and let's say I've got 64 across, but the 5 is pressed up to $15. I'm thinking to myself, if that 5 gets hit, what am I doing? That 15 is going to pay 21. Where do I put the money? Am I racking 21? Am I going to 25? Am I spreading it out? And I know ahead of time where that money's going. If anything else gets hit, if the 4 and 10 get hit, they're paying $18 in that situation. What happens to that money? I've got that figured out ahead of time. And as the person's getting their dice and dealers are paying, I'm processing if the 4 or 10 get hit, or if the 5 gets hit, or the 8 gets hit, with the money I have on it, what am I doing next? That's the baseball mentality. You got a job for every bet has to do. It could just be the same bet in. That's totally fine. But know what you're going to do with each bet. That's an important piece of practice. When you practice that and have your rack ready to kind of tell you what's next, that's when you have a mental advantage. It's an important bit. And again, I work my rack hard. You know, I do the bankroll management in my rack. I keep my level counters in my rack. I'll show you some of that today. And it keeps me accurate. It keeps me on point. It keeps me focused. And I think that's an important way, I don't know, to me to get myself ready to play. I don't want to go to the casino and get caught up in the noise and the lights and the music and the talking to people that are next to me. You can tell, I like talking a little bit, right? I'll strike up a conversation with the dealer, whoever's next to me, and that can be distracting, right? Brian was saying yesterday, he's like, I don't talk to anybody. He's focused, right? For me, I like to have a little bit of social game at the table. So if I'm here with my bets and I know what's going on, I can be social and not screw it up out there on the table, okay? Now, you could just be like Greg and be $25 don't, $30 odds every single time, and then you're also not having to think, which is good, because then you can enjoy the game, right? This is a fun game. It's a confusing, fast-paced, energetic, sometimes, you know, headspacey kind of a game, but enjoy it. And again, if you have a strategy that's easy to employ, you can enjoy it. If you have a strategy that's hard to employ, but you're good at it, right, that also increases your enjoyment level. So hope that makes sense for everybody. I hope that was good. I did see a couple of questions come through before I go to the table and show you some of this stuff. So James, let's see, we have a question from Eric is saying, let's see, you do the same thing with the channels that put the roll history up. Yeah, so I know Jeff does this with the roll history, which is great. And saying, if I would have done this, I would have done that. I tried to put the roll tracker up on my screen, and for some reason, with my computer, when I have the roll tracker up, which is, the roll tracker is actually, if you guys don't know this, it's a spreadsheet app. It runs in Google Sheets in the cloud. For whatever reason, when I have that thing up, my computer gets pinned. Like the fan starts going and it puts it out of sorts. I can't run the roll tracker without it killing my machine. I don't know why. So I can't do it. So I do the dice out here, which is a good point to make. James, question, when do you practice? Do you have bets from other players all around? Yes, I do. When I'm throwing practice, I put landmines out there all the time. I try to, which helps me a lot because the landmines aren't things to just avoid. They help me. I think landmines are good. When people have bets, comebacks, or pass lines with odds back there, my throw style is to get behind that stuff anyway and be as close to the wall as I can. Whether I'm throwing controlled or just rhythm throwing, I want to be as close to the wall as I can when I land. So actually having that jump over those things is a help to me, not a hindrance. But yeah, I totally do that for sure. And let's see, Matthew, betting idea, lay the back wall at 25 or 30. I love that. And repeat numbers pay. Yeah, I love the back wall lay. We've done this before on the show. Matter of fact, last night, if you caught my show last night, I was working on a new strategy. And I was kind of like, how do I hedge the come out for this one if I want to? And the back wall lay would be a perfect play for that. The only thing wrong with the back wall lay is that it puts you at the guaranteed loss. But the other day I did this and I had 3 or 4 come out sevens that just, put us right there right on track. So that was pretty cool. Kent, I couldn't do any worse than the Mariners have been managed, right? All these years. I actually coached baseball for a long, long, long time. I coached baseball. My son was 5 when he started T-ball. And I coached that team, and I coached him on his team through the age of 14 through select baseball. Then it got to the point where he and I were, because I caught, he was a catcher, and our car rides home, we're analyzing every pitch. Not like mad at him, but like, what would you have done? And we were like here the whole time. And I was like, man, this isn't fun for me. This can't be fun for him. And we would, because he called his own pitches. He called the pitches for the guys. And it was like, we were starting to not enjoy it so much. So I bowed out of coaching him for a couple of years. And I actually ran the organization for a little bit, let him play, enjoyed him playing. He had, I think, a better time. Got him with a coach who was better coach than me and got him to play college baseball, which was fantastic. I turned around and picked up another team and coached other people's kids for the next 4 or 5 years. So this is my first year not coaching, God, in 17 years. So it's weird not being on the field. So I know, yeah. Anyway, let's go ahead and get the table. And Jay, when I employ left and right rear lockup grooves, I'm turning 100%. Watch my video, man. I'm sure you've seen it. I've got a whole video on rack management, and you know how I do this. I work all 4 quadrants of my rack really hard. When I'm playing the game, I've got 4 quadrants working, and they all have a job to do for me. So I will show you how I set some of that up right now. Let's go to the table. All right, here we go. I'm gonna go and throw a couple of hands here, and then we're gonna talk about, we'll talk about some strategy play and how I kind of work that rack. So I'm gonna get some dice out, and I'm just gonna pick, I don't know, I'm just gonna throw them from my back rack here somewhat carefully, but more than importantly, I wanna get, again, my first throw of the day, so I hit the back wall, there's an 8. It's a 4-3-7, which is fine. Let me get warmed up here. We'll lay them out here, and I do my 7s pointing that way, just so that we can see that that's an obvious 7. And then you'll see how the hands work out. So again, this will be a full hand until the shooter 7's out. Look at that, 2 in a row, huh? That's a good start. I'm gonna start, this might be a long series of 7s here. Who is it suggesting we should lay the back wall on the come out roll? There it is right there. Okay, there's a 5. Point of 5. Hopefully you can see those dice clearly enough. I'm not sure if they're super visible. I mean, the nice thing about a green table is that it looks nice, but sometimes these kind of things aren't super visible on camera. There's a 5 followed by a 9, little sister number action right there. And again, if you care, what I'm throwing is the inline 6s as softly as I can, but again, I run on cork, so no such thing as a soft throw on cork. Okay, here we go. That wasn't too bad. There's an 8. Things to pay attention to as I throw these dice are what I say all the time. Now, this looks like it's going to be an okay roll to this point. Once we got out of the gate, the chances of any one number getting hit, oh, that was a terrible throw, of any one number getting hit during a roll is about 25%. So to have a situation like this where every number has been hit, right? I've got, well, except for the 8, I got the 4, the 8, the 6, the 9, and the 5. Except for the 10, we've hit them all here one time. So far, it's a really good roll. And you're thinking, man, that's a great roll, right? I can make money on this guy. If you're a pressing type of player, you don't make money until now, the second hit of the 8. That's the one that you can actually say, now I have pressed, now I can collect something, right? You got to make sure that you're getting these things hit a couple of times here. So that's an important bit for us all to remember as we go. Oh, that was ugly. Hit way too hard. There's a 7. That one hit on the diamond. But there you go. That's a pretty standard roll, right? That's a six length roll. That's pretty good, right? 2 come out 7s, 6 rolls, and then you're out. That's a very, like, what is the average? 8.5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.5. That's exactly average, right? That would be the Wizard of Odds would put me in the newspaper if that was, if he was taking an article, that was exactly what you're supposed to see. There's a 9. We're gonna go ahead and do 2. I'll do 2 hands, assuming that they're of relatively decent length, and we'll talk through them. This is a mixed color dice set right here. This is a blue and a green coming out. There's a 0.7 out. Good. I'm glad that that happened. Because those rolls happen, and you got to make sure that you're accounting for that as your strategy. I said the strategy that you write, that you're playing, has to work in every situation. And that right there is a legit situation. And for a don't pass player, the same thing. This is a legit situation if you're on the don't, as is this. So if you're a don't player, you've gotten beat 3 times here. Every roll ended for you with the 7, which is great, but you've got 3 knockouts on the come out roll, which is not fantastic. Okay, there's our point. Right there, a 9. That was okay. A little bit short, but I'll take it. Hard 4, good, 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 good. Love those hard ways, you know me. Okay, here we go. Ugh. 10 though, look at that. 4 and a 10. Those things bounce like madmen. I expect to see though, and also with the set that I'm using, which is the inline 6s, I expect to see a lot of 4s, 10s, and I expect to see a lot of 6s on top of the dice, the way I throw this stuff. There's a 6. We're looking for a 9 here to get out of this hand. And we'll see if I can't, if this one ends early, I may do a 4th hand just to kind of get a sense of it. We'll see how these dice roll here. There's an 8. Here we go. Oh, that was too hard. There's a 6. 4, 2, 6. There's a 9. Great. Point made. Awesome. This is great. This is, we have, I'll mark it like that. So I've got 1 6-roll hand where we did not make the point, a 0.7 out, and a 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, actually, it's come out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, where we did make the point. There's 2 decent sized rolls and a shitty one in between. I have enough dice here to do 1 more roll, maybe. We'll see how this works out, and we'll get 4 rolls out there, and then we'll go ahead and evaluate ourselves and see what we did and how we look at our strategies against these rolls. There's a come out midnight, which for the right side players who have gotten 1, 2, 3 wins on the come out, this is a loss on the come out. There's a 9. That'll be our point again. What I'd like to see here is a short roll, like 2 or 3, followed by the 7. That would be ideal. A, because I'm almost out of dice, and B, because it gives us a good look at strategy performance on a mid-size, crappy kind of roll. Here comes some Yahtzee dice for you. Nice roll right there. That's aces. That's aces. And again, I'm thinking about a couple things here. If I'm in the horseman, that one's going to hurt me at some point. And if I'm in the come, that one's going to, if I'm a come better on a molly, that one's going to hurt me. Here we go. Let's get this last. We've just got a couple sets of dice here left, so we may have to just pretend we get a 7 to finish our work here. There's a 4, 2, 6. This is, I believe, my last set. So this one is not a 7. I'm going to make it a 7 just to get a sense of roll size here. There's a 6. All right. I actually do have one more set. I'll make the last set the 7. So here we go. That's actually an interesting roll because we'll fudge it and say that's a 7, and we'll be out. This last roll here, and I'm only doing this because I'm actually out of dice. This one's interesting because you have a come out loser, a 9, a 6, a 6, a 6. There's 3 6s in there, which has potential. I think that's kind of interesting, right? So here's my 4 rolls that I've got, my 4 shooters that I'm playing through. Then what I do as I'm practicing is say, well, what I have done on these rolls? How does my strategy perform against the rolls, and where can I find opportunity to tune a strategy based on that? See, I love, I'm seeing in chat, my roll would have been 450, right? I love that, right? That's really kind of cool. So here we go. Let's look at, let's take the standard Hedgeless Horseman, right? On shooter number 1, the quarter goes down, right? I don't replace the quarter. The way I play the Horseman, once I get beat here, I'm not going back. We ignore that. Now we're on a point of 5, and I go into the come for a 9, into the come again for a 6, into the come again for an 8. 4 rolls, the 8 rolls, the 8 comes down and gets paid, and then we 7 out. So in this case, the Horseman, on a pretty good little roll right there, earns 2, right? It actually loses 2, because these will go down on the 7. So that one, it represents a loss for me. If I look at my other strategy, we'll do it again, the Horseman at half size. So I do a half size Horseman too, where I'll do, based on the point, I do some odds, right? So here we're gonna go regular size come bet, or I'm sorry, a half size come bet. So a $10 come bet. That would be on the 9. So we would lose this quarter, right? We're on to the 9. The next half size come bet goes to the 6. The last one I miscounted here goes to the 8. And here again, when the 7 comes here, you're gonna get paid $10 on this 8, lose these 20 plus the quarter down there. So you have 20 in the rack. Those are exactly covered, and you only lost a quarter in that case. So the half size Horseman can work against a roll like that. Now the second roll is great, right? The second roll, don't pass, point is gonna be 9. Go into the come, it's a 0.7 out, both get paid, and you're up $50. So on the 0.7 out roll, the Horseman does good in both situations, I think. If I look at the standard inside guy, let's go here. We'll do, let's pick some random, actually I'll leave those there for now. Let's do something on the inside. And again, bypass the come out, point to be 5. And I'm on the inside for the base, for $44. What happens in here? What does your strategy look like when you're here against the actual rolls that we see? Okay, so the 5 happened. Now the 9 happens, right? That pays $14. What are you gonna do? So many ways to play this, right? If your strategy is like mine usually is, which is to collect first, then start pressing, I'm gonna be okay. And what I do in this situation, by the way, in my rack, let me put these over here. I'll use my lammers to kind of mark where I am. So I'll take, for example, in my case, the 9, the 8, the 6, and the 5. Those are the 4 bets that I've got out there. And if you can see, I'll put it this way so you can see them. My PC lammers here, I put them on part of my rack. So my starting bankrolls here, my profits over here, my out money's on the table, which normally comes from the front of the rack. So I'm working here. I take a hit on the 9. I'm gonna take this profit out because we don't have profit yet. I take my 9 hit, I bring it back, and I mark that, I flip the lammer over. You can do it with a white and a red chip. You can have white chips here, and when you're done, flip it so you can see red. Whatever you're seeing is your clue to where you are. My 9 has been collected on, I'm gonna press that forever now. If the 8, let's take the next one. The next one is a 6. So the 6 comes, again, that pays $14. We'll do 15 for 1 on the 6, right? I'll collect that, and I'll mark my 6 as having been collected. Now I've got 2 that have been collected and can be freely pressed on the next one. I get an 8 as my next roll. The 8 pays, again, we'll do 15 for 1 on the 8. I'll collect that, and I'll mark the 8 has been collected. Now you can see I've got three of my bets are paid for. We get a 4, which we're not on. we get another 8, and now this 8 pays 14. And we go into half press mode. We'll take $6 of it and bring it to $18, bring the rest to our rack. And in that kind of a situation, the half press, the same bet to half press works out. Had I half pressed everything, let's do it again. I'll reset the rack. I'll look at that same set of rolls. Let's just half press from the outset and see what the difference is. So again, know what you're gonna do. Now that you're gonna be pressing a little bit, I expect to come back from these a certain amount of money, right? So my 8, again, the first one is a 5, that's the point. The second one is the 9, that pays $14. If I just start out by half pressing immediately, right, I can mark the 9 as being half pressed, which means putting 1 nickel up there and collecting this. The next one was a 6. 6 will pay $14. And again, we're gonna half press it up, so I'll take one unit, rack the remainder. Then we get a 4, which we're not on. I'm sorry, then we get the 8. The 8 has been pressed up. No, we haven't done the 8 yet. The 8 gets 14. And same as before, but press it up by 1 unit, bring back something. Then we get a 4, which we're not on. Then the 8 comes again for $21. I'll half press that again, so I'm gonna bring this up by 12. I'll drop $1 and press that up by half of my winnings. So it's gonna go to, whoops, $30. Bringing $10 back to my rack, and then we 7 out. And I've got less money here. In that situation, on a decent roll, I have 30 plus about 9. 30, 25, 35, $39. On the other one, I made about 50. Okay, so comparing just those two methods together, and again, it's not a strategy comparison necessarily, it's an opportunity comparison. I'm looking at where can I tune the strategy that didn't win enough money, right? This is actually a pretty damn good roll here. Every number gets hit once, one of them gets hit twice. That's a pretty good roll. You should be able to make money on that, more than $30 on 6 inside hits. Think about that. $30 on 6 inside hits is not a lot of money, okay? The other one, we gave ourselves, remember, we gave ourselves in the rack opportunity to know when it was okay to press because we'd already collected our money back and we're in good shape. Here, when the 7 comes, we're actually out money. We started out with 44. You're at 25, 39. So you lost money where the first player made money. So that's an interesting piece to look at there. You might want to spread on some of these things. So I think that's a way to kind of approach that. And again, I use my lammers to guide me through what I'm supposed to be doing on each one. Let's say I wanted to power press things. Okay, let's look at that option. Again, 44 on the inside. Now I want you to think about this. If you're gonna be a power presser, you need more money in your rack. And let's go ahead, we'll use our lammers again to note where we are here. And if I'm I'm gonna need some money. Actually, I'm gonna take just some money out of the bank here. If I'm gonna power press up, let's take the 6 as an example. It's $12. It pays $14. So between the 14 and the 12, what do you have out there? What's possible? It's possible to go to 24 with what you have, okay? If you're gonna power press, I can drop another $4 out there from my rack and say go to 30, but you better know that coming in. And what I would do if I'm gonna be a power presser, here's what I'm doing. I'm gonna set my rack up exactly like that, so I'll take these away, and I'll put $4 on my 6, I'll put $4 on my 8, so I know if a 6 or 8 comes, I'm dropping that out there and getting that press up, okay? If it's a 5 or a 9 that also pay, again, $14, what are my options? I have 10 plus 14 is 24. I know that on a 5 or a 9, I'm gonna drop $1. Get that out of the way. I'm gonna drop $1 to take this to a quarter. But I know that, and I've got it set up here. I've set my rack up with my next bet. When I said to you before, the baseball analogy, what do I do when a number is hit? This is what I do. This is how I set up my rack, so I know On my next hit, what's happening? If it's the 5, I'm dropping a penny and I'm saying take it to a quarter. Boom, goes to a quarter. Sound good? That's how we manage the rack there, like so. Now, when it's here, again, that's going to pay 35 bucks. What do you do in this case? You could just go to 50. You can go to full press here, or you can prepare to drop $15 more on it and go to 75. And if you're going to do that, I would have the $15 sitting there so that when the 5 hits right there, I can drop 15 and say, take me to 50 or 75, and let's go right up. So you can absolutely set yourself up for success by keeping this in tune with what you're about to do. Set yourself up here so you know what you're about to do. I hope that makes sense to everybody. That's kind of what I do in here to make sure I'm ready for the next move. So that's kind of a quick look at sort of how to use your rack to help you in your press maneuvers and knowing what you're going to do as you go forward. If you don't do this kind of thing, then when you're talking to your neighbors and when you're BSing around and getting your drink or whatever else, you're going to forget. And you're not going to know where you are. These things tell you where you are in the hand. And again, once I go to there, dollar goes out, we go to a quarter. My next move is putting 15 bucks here. So I know I'm putting 15 bucks out for the next one. You got to keep your rack ready for what you're about to have happen out here. That's a really important bit to this thing. So I think practicing your bets, knowing what your moves are, and having yourself ready with your money to go to the next one just makes this thing happen on rote. That's an important bit to it. Okay, there's that. The other thing to talk through here then also, and this is a repeat from my first ever video, is rack management. And I practice this religiously, as you know. I'm going to show you another strategy here. We're going to run through the come ladder, which is good because I got stuff out here for that. We're going to run the come ladder, which takes 7 chips. Okay, we're going to go 7 units. I'll do them all in red. Doesn't matter what the color they are because it's a single unit bet. We'll do 4. Yeah, 4 shooters. We have out there. We'll do 4 shooters with it. I'm going to show you how I work a rack with a strategy like this. So on the come ladder, I bypass the come out roll. And the way my rack works is this. My bankroll, my starting bankroll is in the back. I bring up 1 shooter's worth of money. So when I'm working my rack, the way I like to work my rack, back here is my starting bankroll, and I divide it up by the number of shooters I'm going to face today, or that I'm going to battle with. I bring one of them up. The front quadrant, this is where I'm working from. This is my to the table money. Over here is any profits, actual profits that I earn. I'll take money and I'll replenish over here as we go. I'm always trying to keep this thing straight. So shooter number 1, we bypass the come out, the come out goes to the 5, okay? I go into the come with 1 unit. That goes to the 9. I go out with 2 units because, again, if I have 1 in action, I put 2 as my next come bet. That one goes to the 6. Then I put out 4 units. 2, 3, 4, because I have, I miscounted here, because I've got 1, 2, 3 units in action. 4 units is bigger than 3 units, and it goes out. That goes to the 8. The 4 comes out, we're done. The 8 comes out again. That pays 4 units, comes back to the rack. The 7 comes, and we lose the 3 that were out there. The net result is this. I put 7 units back where it belongs and 1 unit in the profit stack. The next shooter comes out. I put my money up front. We have a 9. I go into the come. 7 out. Pays me a nickel. That comes back to the rack. I get 7 units. I put them back in my bankroll stack and build my profit side up. So I'm working from here to the front, working the strategy, saving the profit, always replenishing back in the go. Here we are again, bypass the come out roll. The point's going to be 9. Come goes to the 4. A 2 unit come goes to the 10. Our 4 unit come goes to the 6. We have an 8, which we don't care about. We have a 6, which pays. Did I miss a 6? No. Okay, 6, the 8. The 6 comes down and gets paid. Same as last time. That all comes back because we lose it on the 9. Or I'm sorry, those stay out there because the 9 was the point. Those stay out there. And right now, what I do is this. I keep this money here. I've got profit locked up, but I'm still in the same shooter. So I'm not going to replenish until the guy 7's out. because my next play, once the point gets established, which again is another 9 here, I'm gonna come back out. Now I've got 2, 3, I restart the process. I put another 4 out there to cover. 4 covers 3, and that goes to the, where are we at here? We're on the 9, that goes to the 6 right there. 3 is the max I do. There's aces which come, which I don't care about. The 6 comes down and gets paid right there. Back to the rack it goes. And again, I'm still shooting. I still have 4. I put 4 units back out there again. That goes to the 6, and then we have our 7 and lose this. How did I do? 3, there's 7 units. It goes back into the rack. 1 in profit. Now I could have stopped earlier on, but I'm netting a nickel every single time on non-repeating rolls. And that's how I would have played that with the come ladder. But notice how I work from back to front, from front to profit, and then back again. I kind of keep my money cycling here, and I keep my rack in shape the whole way through, and I hope that that makes sense. And as I do this here, again, I'm practicing the rack mat. I'm practicing this as I look at how my strategy did. So I'm working both sides of it. I'm working the rack, and I'm working the strategy, and I'm saying, where was the hole? Where was missed opportunity in that? And how can I tune the strategy even a little bit better than I did? That one begs for odds sometimes. It is what it is. So I've been on the come out, right? When I had the bets up here, should I have been the come or the pass line instead of bypassing to the come? There's lots of chances in here to do things. There's field plays in here that we didn't take advantage of. So that's how I practice. I lay them out and I keep working the same old systems against what I see to give myself the visual, A, on how my rack is going to be managed, B, how I know where I am if I'm going to be pressing, and C, how am I doing over here, where the most important thing is, which is the front side of my stack. How did the front side of my stack work out? So that's, again, a lens into how I practice things. And I think as we shape our strategies and as you go forward and work on your own stuff at home, this is the way I do it. And I know that you don't all have tables, but you have Crapsy and WinCraps and other things that you can do, and you can chart stuff like this. I know that WinCraps and Crapsy both let you enter in roles. So if you wanted to take the roles that you see us doing on YouTube, write them down, enter them into those apps, you can run your strategies against our roles, which I know that some people like to do. I think it's actually kind of a cool thing to see and hear about the next day. So that's a lens into sort of how I practice. And again, that's not all of it, but that's a lot of it. And just so you know too, I want to call this out. I probably should have done it earlier. When I threw the dice here, I threw those, whatever that was, 30 rolls pretty quick, because what I have done earlier in the day is this. I practice my setting. I make sure that I can get my dice where I want them as quickly as I need to, right? So I've got my dice sets already set up, and I actually do this while I'm having coffee in the morning. I'll actually sit here and play with my dice, and I'll get them all set as quickly as I can. I'm looking for, and what I do is I'm looking for 6s on top and 4s in the front. So for me, I know where the 6s are, right? I know right where the 6 is, and I know where my 4s are going to be. And I see a 4 on top, I can flip it over, get to my 6, and I set them all up, and I have a whole stack of dice over there that are all set up for me to do this. And so when I'm throwing, I grab a set of dice, I get them where I want them, 45-degree angle, I pick them up, and I prepare my little soft toss with them. And I practice the setting too. I get them all set up, and then I go through and start monkeying with them as far as throwing goes. So that's, again, a window how I do it. It keeps me honest. I do this multiple times a day. I'll come through and I'll do this. Like I said, I set up the dice in the morning, usually with my coffee, and it's good. To me, it's cathartic to sit here and set the dice, have a cup of coffee, think about my show. What's going to be done today? You know, I think that's actually kind of fun to do. So I don't know, it gets me ready to go there. So that's it. That's where we are. Hope that was a helpful thing.